Hello everyone, hopefully sound is good and all is well. I'm Carmen, I'm one of the 3D modelers here at Firestorm Studios, and we'll be continuing our environment this week. We've been working on it for a while. If we just quickly pop out of the subnet so we can quickly look at where we're at. Right, so we've currently, as it is, got a tower and 3 house variations. Now, ideally, all these houses will be slightly more detailed than they currently are. I want to add roof tiles to them all, which can only be spotted at a certain angle just due to lighting, etc. But beyond that, I also want to be adding variation because, as you can tell, it's quite constant. Not much interest there. So ideally we'd want to just add a little bit of randomness. We did play around with it last week. We could not find a solution for it. But maybe this week we can find something we can play with a little bit. We also would want, well, by we I mean I, would like to adjust the scaling a little bit. I want to be able to have some randomness in the scale without it completely messing up my my roof, in the sense of I don't want gaps between the tiles, but I do want a little bit of variation on scale. So that'll be also on today's to-do list. Whether we'll achieve this or not is up in there, but we're gonna try. So along with that, I would want to be adding obviously roof tiles to the other roofs, just so we have a little bit of point of interest. And then down the line, it's completely off topic, but down the line, we might be taking a look at Substance Designer for the actual materials of these. We'll first have to do UVs because as it is currently, they do not have UVs, but down the line, we'll get there eventually. Alright, so without further ado, I am going to continue on the main house just because that's where we are the furthest. I'm just going to turn the AC on. Alright, okay. Let's just quickly see what's going on with our music. Don't like that song, we're skipping it. One day I'll have proper music, today is not that day. Right. Brilliant. Now these are labeled very elegantly as house 1 and house 2. I don't think that's good enough. So let's actually change this to 2-story house. Now this one, we're gonna call this house stairs. Why not? House stairs. Oh, if I can type, that would be brilliant. Right. House number 3 is just going to be 1 story. Oh, I still can't spot. I had long nails and I cut them short. It was not my brightest idea. It makes typing significantly more difficult because I need to look. Right, brilliant. We've got something to work with. We're currently working in the tutorial house. This looks like a cluttered mess. We'll sort it at some point. Today is not that day. I thought I did some organization after our last stream. I, however, did not. So let's take a quick look and get caught up with what's going on here. Right, so we get rid of everything that's not getting used. So that's that. Right. So over here we've got the actual roof tile. Orientation of it and everything. So that's that. I'm not sure why it's transparent. All of the objects. Flat shaded. Why are you transparent? Weird. Alright, moving on from that. And over here we've got the view of that. We've just got the plane that I extracted from the original roof that we are copying to points on. So that is that. And then we've got a find instances. That's basically they're giving us individual copies of the roof tiles, so to speak, because right now it's basically just compressing everything down into one object, and then that gets lowered. Now, the find instances is probably not necessary. Probably not necessary, but it is there. Right, and then that gets lowered and merged into the rest of the roof, etc, etc. So it is cluttered, but it's not too bad. So let's just quickly pop this into there and call it roof tile. Just do it like that. And then I'm just quickly going to name this, what are we going to name this? Roof extract, why not? Because technically we are extracting the top portion of the roof. So to quickly show how we're doing that, we are selecting that face using normal direction. So that way if the size, shape of the roof changes with some variance to that, we shouldn't lose this in theory. Then we're basically blasting out everything except that plane. And then if we quickly look at this, see if we can get wire shaded. We look very closely, not sure if that's showing up on stream actually. Let's jump back to here. But there's an edge that goes over here and then to those sides. We obviously don't want that influencing our selection. So what I'm doing there is just dissolving the flat edges so that we can get a clean plane with basically just a point on each corner that then gets transformed slightly to the sides because I don't want the roof tiles to go inside the roof. And then that's basically just subdivided. That is it. We get orient. We've got an attribute expression that gives us random p-scale and so on. Now, I see I started with a plan here and I did not complete said plan. Right? So the p-scale was meant to be used to obviously randomize the scale, which is brilliant, but if we actually look at the logisticals of it, we're not actually utilizing this expression, and I'm not quite sure why we're not utilizing it. Actually, I lie, we are, but the variation is so low because we only have a variance between 0.9 and 1.0, so that's not technically enough to get a very visible result. So let's see if we quickly mess with that. That is better, but it's not really giving us a lot. Right. So, as I mentioned, we do want to be changing the orientation. I'm not quite sure how we'll be doing that. I do not know how we will be doing that. But let's see what it was. Now, my original thought process was use the group range to select. But I actually don't think we're going to be doing that. Basically selecting the ones we do want to rotate, so to speak. But we're actually going to be skipping that. And then just got around color, that's fine, that pops into there. Now, scaling it does carry some variance, but no, not enough in my mind. I'm not quite sure what's going on. No, that's fine. Now, what the find instance is doing is basically splitting out the object. Geometry bottom and see view and expect this geometry. Right. If we actually look at it at the copied points, you can see we've got zeros and ones, but we've not got actual objects split out, so to speak. We've got point numbers. Point numbers do not help us. So what this is basically doing is giving each roof tile a unique number, name, etc., etc. As you can see, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. Which now means that we've got unique instances, so to speak. Which is brilliant. But my problem with this is as follows. I can't just transform this. right? If I transform this, we get, obviously this is still transforming uniformly, which is not what we want. We could potentially, now is this going to work? I don't know. But we could potentially try and do a group arrange, right? And then select primitives. So every second one. Or third. I want this to look more random, but okay. We could do this. Now group arrange, what group arrange does, it's a pattern selection tool. So it is going to select in a pattern. Yeah, that's just the nature of it. But let's see if we can work with it. Now, bear in mind, this is selecting a couple of these and it's placing them in a group. This is group arrange. So the problem is, if we scale this group, it's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to scale these guys. Now, what would be ideal? Can I do it by, you know how in Maya and Blend and all of those softwares you can scale by unique origin, or basically in Maya would be called, scale by, what do you call it? Component. Which basically means even if you've got multiple pieces in the same object, you can still scale them independently. This transform, however, is not going to let you do that. So, what we could try. Now this might not work. This might not work. We could try. We're going to do attribute grid. No, we are not. We could try attribute expression, but we could also try attribute wrangle, not rig. Wrangle. Attribute wrangle. There we go. And we can, in theory, because these have all got unique names now, right? So we could, in theory, now this might not work. This might not work, but let's try it. Let me quickly think what the code of that would be. Now I'm going to jump over the system, and I am going to Google because I'm no coder. Will this always work? No, it will not. But sometimes it will, so might as well try it. So that's going to be attribute wrangle Houdini code 4. Let's see. Alright, let's see what we've got. But this is scaling, which is fine. Same negative or same market value. Now this is not quite what we want, right? So what this is doing is it's scaling, everything with the same name is getting scaled, which is not what we want. Let's see it equals. But let's see what it does. Let's see what it does. Okay, so that's the first line. The second line is this. Now, according to Google, what this is doing is fit the random 0 to 1 value to usable scale rate. Example, give it 0.5 to 0. Not 0. 0.5 to 1.5, that one. But fine. We'll do that. Random seed. Right, okay. This is the next part. Right. Again, whether this will work, mystery. Let's see what this does. Basically, it gives us something. Let's just quickly see whether that's actually doing anything to that tile. I'm unsure whether that's doing anything. But, let's see. What if I don't want the random? Let's see what we can do. Into a new user's seed insurance. Alright. We're sort of losing. Right. The problem with this one specifically is it messes with the placement. If we actually scale this up, you can see it's not actually assigning something unique to each one. It's scaling uniformly. And that's why everything gets broken the second we do anything. So I don't actually want it to mess with the placement. Move to origin. We're not going to do that. Let's get rid of that. And we don't want to move back to center. But now everything's broken. Or not. Wait. Alright. Let's quickly undo that. Gets the center of the... Right. Okay, so... Get the center of the primitive, which is brilliant, but not functional. Let's see. Can we group it? Alright. That gives us that. But it's still messing with the, what do you call it? It's still messing with the placement, which is strange. Because even if I remove... What if I remove all of these? No, I can't remove a scale. Alright, if I do that, it completely disappears. At P classifies... Isn't that P primitive? Can we... That's not gonna work. I don't want to spend another 2 hours creating. I really not. Right, scrapping that idea. Got the group range. We are going to transform. Can I transform? Let's try something else. Let's try attribute expression. And then this is going to be random. Right, random. We are going to grab group 1. And we're not going to randomize. That will give us the random. Primitive. Click custom. And we do float. Name. Let's quickly see what else we can try. 0, 5, it's not good. Well, actually, I wonder, right, if we take back to this level, we've got the normals. Can't we just randomize the normals? It's actually very difficult to see with the color. Let's get rid of the color temporarily. Let's try that. Before the copy to points, we are going to do also attribute expression. Again, this might not work, or it could. If it works, brilliant. If not, we're going to move on. Quite frankly, we're going to move on. I've only got this so much patience. Random offset. What does this do? Let's go to the copy to points level. Hello. What are you doing? Let's zero that for a second. A value at rand, and then right. And we're not doing that. Right, so that's going to be random. It's not going to be position. It's going to be normal. Right, but I do want to condense this down. We did have something for this. What if we grab this one, plop that into there, and we do, instead of scale, is it called orient? Float. But this isn't specifying, this is not specifying normal direction though, so we'll actually have to change that. Can we do at n rand at pt num min scale max scale? We do that as right as well. I don't know if it's called orient. We're gonna hope for the best. We are going to hope for the best. What's this doing? Nothing. Let's zero that. Huh. That does give us a random value, but I don't think the normal is actually pointing in the right direction. So let's do 0.5. I just want to see what it does, because this isn't technically wrong. It's just not quite what I had in mind. Let's get rid of the ones. I'm not so certain this is actually random. Alright. Look at the normals. Actually lengthening and shortening the normals rather than changing the angle. Orient X. What will that give us? Let's do... Would it be the other way around? Might be the other way around. We'll try that in a second. Yeah, again, that breaks. Orient. Can you do a long X? What was recommended here? Try X orient. Copy that. Now again, this might not work, but if it does, brilliant. If it doesn't, I'm going to pop it into some tool curve. It's something. Now again, this is a prime example of why, let's say, your AI type of things don't work. It's because if you don't have the background of coding, which I don't, it's very difficult to actually fix something if AI doesn't give you the answer, the proper answer. And you've got nothing to base the proper answer upon because you don't know. You don't have the background info of what's actually correct. So bottom line is, you've got very little to work from. Right, let's see if we can plot this. here. We are going to try and make this work. I'm going to give it 10 minutes. If I can't make this work in 10 minutes, we're switching. And I'll figure this out off stream. Right. Right, let's try. Again, if this does not work within the next 10 minutes, we're moving on. Because I don't have the patience for this. Right, so. This is great, but too extreme. If we change this to 0.9, it's still not random direction at big enough. But the exclamation is specific of desired range. Alright. If we use the slider, it does nothing. It should. Oh, okay, that's fine. Let's try and condense this down further. Which does a whole lot of nothing. Now, this is brilliant because it actually randomizes it, but I don't. Okay. Let's see, we're almost there, but I don't think this is gonna work. Let's see. I've officially got 9 minutes left. Right, so. I'm always watching. Let's see whether this can be added to it and whether it actually does anything. Alright. Between... I don't want it to climb between minus 0.5. Let's do 0. And... 0.1. Hello. What did I break? 0. 0.1. There we go, and I think we might want to flip these around, so I'm going to cut that. And plop that into here. Right, we're getting somewhere. No, we're not. Let's do that. Copy, remove search remains. Unit vector for lighting consistency. Let's see whether this helps. Alright, no, so that will completely normalize it, so we're not doing that. We are doing this. Let's do between 0.1 and 0.5 just to see where it goes with things. It's not actually doing anything. It was working before. What did I break? And let's do... grab that again. So that's going to get plopped into here. Going to get plopped into there, and again this is too much, so what we're going to be doing is this is again going to be 0. That's going to be, let's try 2.5. Now see, I thought this was improving it, but it's actually not. It's just as random, it's just shorter. But maybe we don't want X. Let's quickly... Can get the world orientation, the object orientation for this. So let me see what direction it's rotating. It seems to be rotating specific left to right, which is fine. It's fine. Let's focus for half a second. We're going to do that. And again, this normal direction is very weird, but let's see. Up to point. Now, see, that's why I didn't want it to go that way. Because we do want a random value, but not that extreme of a value. Let's zero that. I want to see what that is. Nothing. Multiply it, it does nothing. Random direction, that's fine. Random direction is fine. Got a min-max. This is not actually doing anything. And then we've got that. It's not actually clamping it. Why is it not? The one is circle straight. Right. Again, this is why you should actually learn to, so you don't struggle that hard. Right, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do? First we're going to delete that one. Huh, see, that's part of the problem. Was overlay writing it. This is however still. Can we do like a little one? Or am I completely messing with it now? No, that's not doing a whole lot of anything, is it? That's not doing a whole lot of anything. Right. Right. We're gonna actually plot that off to the side because that was one thought. I'm not saying it's never gonna work, but that's not quite doing what we want. So the normal direction was one way of approaching it. The reason I wanted to approach it this way is if you actually wanted to randomize, well, basically, if we start over, it's using the points to randomize the values, the points that we are copying to, kind of like we use p-scale. And we did the same with color. Let's quickly showcase that. So that is going to be an attribute expression. So if we plop that into there, say random and do color. And plop that into there, we get a random color for each object, which is brilliant. But I want to do that, but with normals. Or orientation rather. But the problem I'm running into is, yes, I can orient it, but I need to clamp it because I don't want everything to go insane. So an alternative to that would be let me think. Let's keep it at scale for now, because this technically works. I would do, instead of orient, we do rotate. I'm gonna try something. I'm going to try one last thing. Let's see. let's see. This is a long shot. Let's try it. Last tranche. We're gonna try it. We are gonna try it. We're gonna link that one, and we are plop this into there, and we're gonna do that. Alright, so that will technically go into there, but I actually want to see the normals. Because I do not want this. Max rotation angle. Min. Max exponent. That's not actually doing anything. Why? Current angle. No. You know what? I'm not enjoying this. We're not going to be messing with this. Again, I'll figure this out once I have time. It's something like the tower, because I do want a way to randomize the tower. I haven't currently figured that out, but ideally I want to be doing that at some point. It's not actually doing anything. Why? Why? So look at this. This is actually doing nothing. This is doing nothing. Right. Getting that train of thought. We're pivoting. We are pivoting. Alright. So technically the roof tiles work. Are they pretty? No. Do they look the way I want them to look? No. But they are technically functional. They're just not refined. Let's just give it a roof of color so I can actually see it. Brilliant. It's gonna be red. Why not? Red is fun. Right. Forgetting the fact that the roof is not refined. Okay, that red is actually obnoxious. That red is very obnoxious. Let's grab that color. No. Can I not? We cannot select it that way. Brilliant. Why? I should just copy this and it'll be so much quicker, but let's run with it. We're gonna do it this way. Good enough. Right. So, I've wasted 40 minutes, but that is a-okay. We're gonna run with it. What we'll be doing next is... I don't want to be adding the roof tiles to the other houses until I've refined this. So, we're not going to be doing that. I actually think I've seen a tutorial somewhere of how to do this. So hopefully I'll have a chance to do this in between the next classes, or not classes, the next stream, and we'll figure it out together. Right, moving on. If we're not adding roof tiles, what else will be adding? We'll be adding to these. We could potentially add frames to these guys, but I don't think I feel like doing that. Let's quickly take a look at our mood board. Now, bear in mind, this is, again, AI generated images. We're using them as inspiration. I'm not following a concept for this. I want to make my own thing, and I just wanted basically a mood board to base rough ideas upon. The plan was never to use it for a final thing. So having said all of that, what are we creating next? I wonder if we should maybe create this lantern next. Because I do want lanterns. Because I'd like the lights that are going down the pathway here and so on. So let's do that. We're creating a lantern. We have created a lantern in the past. It was a slightly different shape. It was actually more of a hexagon, octagon type of shape. I can't remember whether it was a hexagon or octagon, but one of those. We are going to call this lantern. Alright? Brilliant. Now, in terms of placing the actual environment, we will be doing the arrangement in probably Solaris and not in the, you know, the normal geometry side of things. Right. So, we are going to start with... You guys are going to hate me. We're going to start with a line. And now, for those that have followed my streams for a while, you'll know I use lines a lot. Lines are sort of my base for everything. Now, I'm going to go relatively quickly through this because I've covered it a lot in the past, but let's quickly go over this. We are going to use a line, and the normal direction of the line is going to determine the shape of the eventual cylinder. So, to do that, we need a couple of things. We need more topology, but we also need normal direction and curve U. Now, curve U is a little bit of a mask. It goes from 0 to 1, but like P-scale, except it's not point-based. It's distance-based, so to speak. Right, so we need normal, so that's going to be attribute rate. So that gets plopped into there, and then this is going to be a vector, because normals are vectors, and that's going to be n, and then we can just place, let's see, 1 and 1, and then if we actually view the normals, we'll see we've got a normal direction, which is brilliant. Right, so that is done. The next thing, as I mentioned, is we need curve U. So Houdini is absolutely brilliant. We've got curve U built in the resample node. So if we plot that into there, go into there, and we go curve U, that'll give us curve U. To visualize curve U, it's a bit like it's a color vision of a grayscale mask. Hello, Carmen, how have you been? How's the tile building going? I just installed cloud code and connected so I can troubleshoot on my end later today. That would be brilliant. I've had no luck. Literally no luck. I quite honestly haven't had time to explore it over the weekend. That was the original plan, that I was going to play around with the scale over the weekend. Did not get to it. I'll be honest, I read a book instead of working. Very rare for me, but anyway. But yeah, let me quickly jump into this one. I'm going to get rid of curve U actually, just so we can work on that. Plop that to there. Right. I could figure out how to randomize the scale to some extent. My main problem is I can't randomize the orientation without it going completely bonkers. Yeah. That what else can I say? It just goes weird. It basically randomizes a two extreme example. If it was basically I need a way to find a way to clamp it a little bit so that it doesn't go all over the place, so to speak. But yeah, quickly jumping into here. Let us see what we've got. Right, so again, we've got curve U, we've got everything we need. We are now going to pop into attribute pop. Again, I've gotten very in detail on this in the past. I'm not going to go too in depth, but bottom line is we need a bind to get our, what do you call it? Curve U. We need the bind, get the curve U. That is going to be a float. We need a displace along normal. Displace along normal, that gets plopped into there. And curve U is going to determine the amount. Point is going to go into point, and normal is going to go into normal. And that's going to... No, I'm making a mistake here. Because we also need a ramp. So what we're going to do is ramp. Parameter. That gets plopped into there, and that's going to be line. Now it looks like it didn't work, but it in fact did. If we plop that into there, we get that. Brilliant. Now, obviously this is not the actual shape we want. Firstly, I want this to go that way. But secondly, we don't have enough topology. So let's quickly view our point count on this. We want probably okay, maybe like that. And then again, this is just a linear one. We do not want linear. We probably want that. And then in terms of the line height, we probably want 2 to 3 times the height of the pad. And let's do 3. Now this is going to turn into our pillar for the lantern. That is what it's going to do. So we need to start getting a shape in. I don't like this one. Let's do Bezier. I just feel like I have more control with it. So we are going to be messing with this a little bit just to see what we can get. In terms of the top, we do want that to be relatively straight. Let's view it from the front so we can get the full picture. Alright. So, we do thankfully have quite a bit of topology, so we can mess with this quite a little bit. We would resample this down the line. I'm going to actually select these and move them up. Yes, I can. Right, and then we grab this one. I actually want that to go like that. And possibly, no, I don't want to have both of those selected. Grab that one, and I just want to do that a little bit that way. Alright. Let's see. Want that to go more like that. And then I want another thingamajig. So I can create more of this type of pattern. Will I change this? Most likely yes. But as it is currently, we're just getting a base down. Again, this is just a base. We will be editing this because I realize this is looking interesting. Alright. Then in terms of the top, we actually want a little bit of something there as well. Now, just so we can visualize this easier, I'm actually going to revolve it. And I do want to reverse this. Right, so this immediately tells me that my base is too wide, right? So let's go back into here and grab those, and we're going to make them smaller along with this one. I do maybe want a little thing there as well. Play with that a little bit. We are getting somewhere. Right, so that one is... do I want that to be bigger? Maybe want more like that. Choices. I can play with these guys for ages. So fun. Love playing with the lines. Right, focusing for half a second here. We want to have a little bit more variance. Maybe we can do, I don't know, huh? I'd say that this side of it is too skinny. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Right, brilliant, we've got a line. That is interesting, it is however also boring. So what we will be doing is a group arrange. Group arrange. In terms of divisions, we've currently got 12, we want 16. Why do we want 16? I don't know, I just like 16. Generally speaking, you do want to be working in 8, it just makes your life easier. Right, so, group arrange. We want to select a second edge, and then we want to extrude that. poly, extrude. Brilliant. So that gets blocked into there. We can now specify group 1. We would actually want to name this. I have not. It's fine. Right, so let's go back to perspective so I can see what we're working with. I don't love what that's doing actually. Let's quickly condense that down. We could go inwards. Yeah, let's do that. I just want to see what this does with smooth shaded. Absolutely. Granted, we've not actually helped the normals along, and there's no beveling. Maybe we should quickly do a bevel. Just so I can get the normals already from the unfixed from the start. So let's do that. And then we do want wire shaded, just so I can see what it's actually beveling. So do that, and then we are going to place that edges. You see that I don't like it. Alright, quickly jumping back into the poly extrude. We are not doing it, so we're going to go outwards. Let's do 0. I think this is just going to give us a cleaner result. So let's bevel that. And then let's quickly fix these areas and see what we're working with. Alright. I want two divisions. I don't want this corner to be sharp though. So maybe before the poly extrude, might have to be after. We'll see. But let's try, for the revolve actually, let's try resolve, just to see if we can maybe clean up the topology a little bit. I don't want, right, more like that, and then maybe maximum. I do want this to clean it up. I don't want even segment lengths there. What does that do? Maybe maximum? No. Yeah, it's fine. We'll work with it. Again, this is too many. We would probably reduce this down. But as it is currently, it will hopefully give us a cleaner result. Yeah, I think it will. Let's heavily bevel that. Again, we don't want that corner to be beveled, so let's quickly see if maybe exclude that, and I would reduce the extrude a little bit so it's just cleaner. Right, brilliant. Now this is too high poly for a game workflow. Bear that in mind. We would need to reduce this, but as it is currently, it's fine. Right, brilliant. We've got our, let's say, pillar. We've got our pillar. Now, something I'm not quite liking is it looks a little bit like a melted ice cream cone. And I'm not quite sure why. Right, let's quickly jump back into here and see what we can do about that. Let's condense that down. I actually want this to be straight. As much as humanly possible, don't want it to be that thick either. Let's condense that down. Alright. Again, this is still looking a bit melty, so let's try maybe, what can we do with this? Let's plop that out there. Don't like that. It could be that we just have too many bumps. And they're too even. So what if we actually grab all of these? Hello, I actually want all of them. Don't be like that. Right. And we move these over. Hello FBI, how are you? I'm good, thanks. What are you working on lately? Alright, so I think what we're going to be doing is I'm actually going to delete one of these. See what we can do about the rest of these. I'm just trying to condense this down a little bit so that it's not so melty. I don't know how to phrase it other than it looks melty. Don't like melty. Let's see. Maybe we should do 3 instead of 4. I don't know. Mind a ninja recruit for a client locally. My first character from very scratch. Well, that's a good thing though. It's good that you're branching out. Character work kind of fun. I predominantly do character work. It's not my favorite actually, but I predominantly do character work. All right, so let us simplify this a little bit, and then let's grab that one. Now see. Is this significantly simpler? No, but it actually does look better. Good. Keeping in mind there will be a thing on top that balances it out a little bit. It could be that this is just too thick. Do that. And then make that a little bit more skinny. You playing game music again, Miss Patricia is going to be concerned about it now. Possibly. Possibly. I don't even play games, which that's probably not a good thing to say, but I don't play games. Can we get... I want faces, so let's do a polyfill quickly. Let's do a polyfill. You don't? I do not. I play occasionally, rarely. I play Sims 4 and Minecraft, and that is the sum total of what I do. I didn't go into 3D modeling due to my love for games control, which is very controversial again to say, but I just didn't. I went into 3D modeling because I enjoy 3D modeling. Rather than the outcome of 3D modeling. I enjoy the process, I enjoy the challenges that comes with it, I enjoy the fact that it's creative, but also very problem solving. Music too loud. Let me fix that. Better? Let me know. Hopefully that's better. Let me actually check this chat that is quickly updated. Commercial break-in. Sorry about the commercial break, but hopefully we should be good to go on the music now. Do let me know. Alright. I can also turn it off. Quite frankly, I'm not listening to the music. I don't know how to say it other than that. I'm not listening to the music. Still too loud. You know what? Let's turn the music off. I'm going to turn the music off. Right. Right. So that is the basis of our lantern light thingamajig. We might want to increase the height on this, possibly eventually, we'll see. Next thing I want is Then you should play Genshin Impact BGM. They didn't have any copyright issues, and those are good. It's an option. It's an option. Right. So curve. We're gonna make a curve. I am going to template this because I wanted it as a reference for scale. And then we're actually going to view the curve, and we are going to go front viewport. Now, just due to how I'm going to be doing things, I'm not going to, how do I put it? I'm not going to build the curve at the center. That was on Twitch, unfortunately, but yes. So, and quite honestly, the ads help keep Firestorm running. Not that we get much money out of ads. In fact, we're running at a loss with streams. Yeah, ads are there so we can hopefully keep the streams running. Right, so again, not going to build this at the center of the world. Just due to the fact that I want to use this scaling, I'll move it to the center with a map size, most likely. So, let us create a curve. Again, this could be done with a line. I don't like this curve. Wait, I want it bezier. I can just change it in there, but it's just easier to grab actual bezier curve. Right, starting over that one, and then we can get our curve. So, now I will adjust this. But this will just give us a little bit of a base to work from. So plop that into there, and then again this will be edited, but we're just going to start off with that, and then I'm going to quickly change the modes here so we can start manipulating this. I am looking at a reference off to the side. It's just for a rough guide of what I could potentially create. It's not going to be a one-to-one. Run with it. So we do want this to be slightly wider than the pillar itself, just so that it actually looks like it's supporting something and has a purpose. So let's do about round about that. Right. We might be creating additional curve that just to add some extra interest, but let's see what we can come up with. Don't like what this curve is doing. It's very clunky and sort of jagged, which I don't like very much. Right, that's better. This is going to be our base, so to speak. It's not perfect, but it does the job. This will then be swept. So we're going to sweep that. And then I'm not going to add any, what do you call it? I'm not going to add a second input. That's going to determine the profile. I'm just going to grab, I'd say a round tube, why not? And then I'm quickly going to go back to flat wire shaded just because it'll look better. And then we are going to scale this quite drastically. And then I don't like what that's doing though. Columns. How many do we want? Probably that much. All right. And then we will be doing a copy and transform. Now, this is basically just going to copy and transform this around. So what we can just pack and instance it, why not? And in terms of rotation, we do want 360 degrees, and we want, why aren't you doing anything? It is rotating. Let's reduce that value quickly. quickly. Just want to see what it's doing. There we go. Now why was that so difficult? I want 4 though. Why does it give me a problem with 360? I need to divide. Okay, got it. We need to copy this parameter. Zero that out. Paste it into here, and I think it's divided by 360, but it's actually 360 divided by, I think. Yay, it works. Now we can get this. Absolutely brilliant. And then we can merge it. So that gets plopped into there, and that gets plopped into there. Then we get that. Alright. So we might want to reduce the number of copies. I believe my original reference had 4. And I originally thought I was going to move them. No, we do want to do it that way. Right, full process. If I were to ever change this curve, as it is set up currently, if I change the curve or I change the placement slightly, it'll no longer be on top of the pillar, which is fine, but it's not what I want. So a way to bypass that is to actually first center it. So you can do this 2 ways. You can either center it twice. I don't think it's necessary to center it twice. So what I'm going to do is match size, and that gets plopped into there, and that match size is going to go bounding box. Now, as it is currently, that plops into the center. We do not want that. I believe it's min, max, min. No, it's min and max. That way. There we go. And that plops it on top. And then if we merge it. Brilliant. I, however, do not like the fact that that is not completely flat. Let's see. Let's do it that way. No, that's not going to do anything. Max and min. That's going to give us the bottom, which we don't want. So what if we do... No, wait, it was min. Max gives us that. Oh, we can lower it manually. I just want to see what the implications of that are if I were to change these. No, actually, that's fine. That is fine. We can work with that. Right, brilliant. That gives us this. However, that is quite boring. So let's add some variance to this. Firstly, I am going to look if we can maybe change the shape just a little bit. Not a lot, but around about maybe that. And then in terms of the actual curve, I do want some scaling on that. So let's apply scaling on curve. Quickly going to figure out what is the thin end. Why didn't you scale the end of it? That's annoying. Right, let's quickly see. Because what I would actually want to do is I want to scale this end and that end. And then we do want this to be Bezier maybe. Just so that we could potentially thicken some areas if we wanted to. Maybe. No, don't delete that one. Right. Let's plop that over there. If we wanted this to be even thicker, we could potentially go into here and just scale that up slightly. Maybe not that much though. And then we can go into these and actually adjust it over here. Alright. So what I want to be doing is actually thinning that area out. We could add additional curves that jump off of this one, but I think this is good enough for now. So let us view that, and then pop it to here. Right. So that's that. Next thing we want is the actual lantern. Now the lantern shape itself is not too complex, so let's do a square. So that's going to be a box. It's going to be a box. The box gets plopped into there. This is significantly too big, so what we'd probably do is change this to 0.5. No, 7.5. Let's do 7.5 and 0.75. Brilliant. In terms of height, however, I'm pretty happy with the height. Next thing we want to match size again. This will need to go on top of the curves, so due to that, we will be matching the size of the completed lantern, so to speak. So that goes into the bounding box, that goes into that, and then we will be doing that. Brilliant. Now we can no longer see what everything is looking like, so let's just quickly merge this down. That goes into there, this goes into there, that gives us that. Now, again, we're running into a similar issue where this is now on top of everything and it's no longer lining up. So let's go front view. And we're actually going to lower this down a little bit. Alright, so once we've got that, our next problem is as follows. The bottom is too wide. And if you look at a typical lantern, it's typically tapered down at the bottom. Now, we could scale that manually as we would in any other software, but actually we're not going to. We are going to use a taper. Linear taper, that gets plopped into there, that goes into there, and then we can take a second to tape along X and Y. We do want that. Set capture region. We want that and that. It's 0 that. And then that we can put a, what are we going to put that at? Now you'll notice the orientation is slightly off. It's fine. Let's make our lives quite a bit easier. We want the Y direction. No? Z direction? Let's see. Capture origin is going to be that. Capture direction is going to be that. Brilliant. We've got it. And it's now officially straight as well, so that helps. Can we increase the size? Can we please? Capture length. There we go. Right. Now we might actually want the reverse of this, so let's quickly do minus. And then we can actually zero that out more or less. Let's see. Right. Now, the reason why we might want this to be zeroed is so we can actually scale the bottom portion of it. Now, this is already telling me that I do not like the overall scale of this lantern because it's too tall in comparison to its width. So let's try. Let's actually keep it at 1 and just see what we get. Let's do 1. Now see, that's already better. That's already better. Let's merge those together. And then we do actually want to adjust that further. So let's taper slightly more inwards. I would potentially want this to come to a little point. Do I want that though? Why aren't you centered? Why aren't you centered? There we go. That is the reason. Zero that out. Right. Brilliant. We're not going to mess with it right now. We're not going to mess with it right now. Quick water break. Right, let us select faces. So what we are going to do is we're going to group by normal. So that's going to go into there. And in terms of normal direction, we are going to go one in that direction and one in that direction. That should, in theory, give us everything we want. Now this is going to be inset group. So we can now take a poly extrude, and that gets plopped into there, and then we can create an inset that we actually need to visualize. Hello, why aren't you doing anything? I've not specified a group, that's why. Right, so as it is currently, that's going to give us the top and the bottom, which, is that what we want? In theory. It's not the only thing we want, but let's run with it. Right, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to do another poly extrude. And for this one, we are actually going to specify, I think it's going to be extrude side. Yeah. So we want that. And then we are going to create a slight inset on that, just because it's prettier. So that, and then we are going to do another poly extrude. Extruding is fun and it gives us a lot of options. So we are now going to grab the front group actually, and we are going to do individual elements so that when we insert this, we actually get individual elements. All right. All right. Now this is then going to get another front group, and I don't want to preserve groups. And then we're going to poly extrude again. Alright, so that gets plopped into there, and that gives us nothing. So let's quickly specify front group. And then this one is going to be extruded inwards. Right. Now the reason I wanted to do it this way is actually because it just creates a lot of parameters you can play with. Maybe I want a thicker top and a bottom. Maybe I want more divisions. Maybe not. Maybe I want to twist it. Definitely not, but I could. And so on and so forth. Right, that is our base. See what that looks like all together. Something is awful to scaling on this, but it could just be the perspective. Right. Right. Let me think. Right, so one of the issues I'm running in with is this curve is actually very small in comparison to the lantern itself, and it kind of feels like it's going to topple over, just due to how chunky everything is. So what I'm actually going to do is firstly reduce that value. Now that already improves it, but it's not perfect. What we could also do is actually make this slightly chunkier, because yes, it's pretty that it's tapered in, but it actually doesn't look like it can support anything. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rotate this by 45 and see whether I like that better. Or potentially we could just quickly transform this one and rotate by 45. I just want to see what it does, whether that looks like it can support it better. I think we're going to do that. Now you'll quickly notice that yes, this is now looking better, but the main problem is this curve is actually way, way, way too small. So what we can now do, let's grab our curve. Now this is going to be a little bit more I would say difficult, but difficult. Let's template that. And then go to that curve and go to front view. Now it doesn't line up because we've rotated it. It's fine. Let's grab that goes that way, and then we can grab this little handle and start messing with this. I don't want this to be doing that there. Quick question. For creating greebles, do you know an edge or more control to wage rate? I'm trying to model Dune like a facility in Houdini for a destruction sequence. Unfortunately, I've not worked with greebles. For creating greebles, sorry. I've not worked with anything on the destruction side, so I'm probably Dune like facility in Houdini. Wait. Let me first get a little bit of context. What is a greeble? Let's start with that. Greeble. We just get something. Oh, got it. Right. So. I don't, but I'm gonna look into it for you because I've got a course that does cover that. They use curves to place them. So basically, if you have a building, they literally draw on it, and it copies the greeble, so to speak, onto that surface. You can also try point scatter, but what I don't like about that is it's very random. It's very, very random, almost too random. So let me look into that, and I'll get back to you. Let me think. Let me make a note of that, and I'll try and get the info for you by Friday. That way I can cover it on the stream as well. So let me do Greeble placement. Because the reality of the matter is, yes, you can point scatter them, but there's no rhyme or reason to that, and it just looks very random. So ideally, you do it a different way. So yeah, bottom line is I'll look into that and get back to you. There would be plugins for that in Blender, yeah, but when you're building something like that, it's better to do it fully in Houdini. Let me make a corner smooth, balanced. Right. Right. Let's get this all well and good and sorted. Right, so let's see what we're working with. What are we working with? That still looks too chunky. I don't like that. I do not like that at all. Let's quickly scale this. Alright, now that is weird. It looks weird and bad, but we'll fix that in a second. In terms of the match size, I want that to go slightly down. And then the other thing I wanted to change is actually the thickness of the bottom portion. So let's do that. And then we can, I want end caps. Can I get end caps? Pretty please. End caps. Let's do grid, why not? And then once we've got that, we can also quickly make a last adjustment to the curve itself. So let's do front. And then I just want to fix that little bump we've got going on there. That's just due to the scaling. This is looking a little bit, what do you call it? Cartoony. But will work with it. Oh, like directly drawn curves on Geo? Oh, thank you so much. Yes, it is exactly that. I'm not completely sure whether they cover it, but I'm hoping they open the file at some point and you can actually see the behind the scenes, and that should give me enough information to rebuild it. I've not played with it before, but it would be basically like snapping to a live surface in Maya. That would be the, let's say, theory behind it. But it's something I've wanted to look into in any case. So, I mean, looks fun to play with. We'll see what we get, but gives us a baseline. The hope is that it gives enough, basically enough information for me to build something from scratch. We'll see. So, right, so that is that. I do want this to be slightly narrower at the top. I wish I could zoom in on this curve. That would have been nice. That would... It's looking using mesh and snap, I suppose. Very similar. And what's nice about it is it randomizes which asset gets plopped onto it, which is brilliant. I don't know. I like stuff like that. Stuff like that is fun. Let's see. Let's taper that a little bit. Right. Right. I think that's looking better, more balanced. That is looking significantly more balanced. I don't quite like the way that's tapering. Yeah, okay. That is an improvement. No. What if? What if? Instead of doing it this way, we have like a little bit of a, basically have this pillar extend up into the actual lantern. And then we can maybe shrink down the curves because the curves is looking very stylized to me. And I'm not a stylized artist. Can I do stylized if I have to? Yes, I can. Not my passion, not something I enjoy. So let's quickly take a look at these. Maybe we can plop them off to the side a little bit. So we in theory want it to be more like that. Oh no, don't do that. Grab that one. Now again, this will have to be adjusted slightly because we'll be shrinking this down again. Our support will be coming from the center, so to speak. Right, so let's quickly adjust the scale on there. More like that. Why not? And then in terms of the match size, we're actually going to go down into there. Right, and then we are going to grab our original pillar, which is in the attribute box, and we're going to grab that one, this one, that one. Why aren't you selecting everything? Right. I want to grab all of these and just move them down. I'll fix the top in a second. Let's go to, hello, don't break. Please don't break. Okay. We might have to rebuild that. Let's rebuild that. That way we don't have to worry too much about things. Let's grab that one. Right. So for the top, we obviously want it to be relatively thin. So I'm going to plop that down. and move it more to the side. Right. So that'll need to be below. And then we can go maybe there. Now this is too thick, but we'll adjust that in a second. Let's grab that one. Hello, undo. Let's not do that. Alright, so let's grab one and we grab that one, and then ideally we'd have this be a little bit sharper. And grab that way. And that way, and then we can do like a final thing. Alright. Hello, that is hideous. That's awful. Let's get perspective. So that we can see in crisp detail what nightmare fuel we've created. Right, so that's obviously way too small at the top. So what we are going to do is scale that out. And that bit up, and then this one also a bit up. Now that looks insane for half a second there, but we will be making this thicker and more supported, so to speak. Let's go, grab that, make that relatively straight. This can be slightly thinner, and then what we're going to be doing is actually moving this a little bit up, and seeing what we can create there. I don't like how squished that's looking. I suspect what we'll probably do is remove one of these, just to give us a little bit more room, and then we can maybe do more like that. Maybe not quite as thick. Let's see. Now this is the advantage. I can of Houdini. I can play with this until I get bored bosses, basically. Right, let me just quickly a lot of them in Blender, but it's quite a tricky exporting to Houdini units and to prep it for Sim, so I'm trying to build it all in one place. Yes, and also if it's all in one place, you can edit it without having to export, import, deal with scale, etc. It's a process to get things functional when you're exporting and importing from different software. And honestly, the less you can switch, the easier your workflow will be. Alright. So. Am I overcomplicating this? Probably yes. Probably yes. But we've got something. I still think it's top heavy, quite frankly, but we're gonna run with it. Let's do 0.8. Just to compress it slightly down. Maybe it looks a little bit more in control. And then we can potentially manipulate that curve a little bit more, and then once we've done that, we can start adding the top. So curve. What we do want to be doing is actually grabbing this one and pulling that a little bit inwards. So let's do that. Now there is some wonkiness over there, that's just due to the offset on the placement. So we can fix that. to round out there, and we can see we've got a little bit of a bump dip in there, so I'm just quickly going to fix that. And then we should be more or less good to go. Yeah, let's do it that way. Right, top. In terms of the top, what I would want to do is actually also use this process along with the resample potentially, but let's see. Right, so I'm going to do that, and I am going to use a revolve as well, but this time we're going to revolve by 4, which will give us a square, but an ornate square. Can I rotate this? Because, yeah, we're going to rotate it. Rotate. No, not rotate, transform. I want to rotate, but I want to rotate using a transform. Alright, so that gets plopped into there, and then we can just rotate it about 45. Brilliant. Right, so that gives us that. We want to copy this on top of the roof of the lantern. Bearing in mind, right, so this is big. It's very, very big. So we will have to readjust things, but it does give us something to work with. Right. And then we need to merge that back up. So that gets plopped into there, that goes into there, this goes into that. Hello. Where have you gone? This get transformed. Geometry to move and resize. That is correct. Okay, we need to specify max min. No, max min. Brilliant. That should give us something. Now again, this is 2 tools. So what we're going to be doing is scale this to 1. Don't think we're going to need any more than that. And then what we'll then be doing is we're going to actually manipulate the shape, because we've got this. Right, so we're going to grab these, and make it wider. I do actually want end caps on these, so let's do quick roll up, and I want end caps. Plop that into there. Right. Now, as it is currently, we've not got enough topology on this. That is fine. We can do a resample. Let's do another resample. We did have this in the original. I just quite frankly removed it. Can we do something good? Right. Brilliant. So what I now want to do is actually want this to be right about there. And then we can start playing a little bit with the shape, just seeing what we can get. I will most likely be making this more shorter. Brilliant. I want to make this shorter. So see what we can do with this. I don't want this many dots to manipulate, so let's just get rid of some of them to make my life a little bit easier. Right. This should be better. Right, and then again on in terms of scaling, we want this to be smaller. That's already better. That is already better. We might want to, let me actually change this. We're going to play with it a little bit. I've got an idea. Let's do, I might regret this, but we're going to make a little bit of a detail at the top. We obviously don't want this to be too We want this to look like it's still supported. So there is that. But we're going to play with it a little bit and see what we get. Alright. I quite like that. The only thing I'm not quite liking is I don't think we can plop another curve on top of this. And I would like to have another curve, so I'm actually going to taper this in a little bit. And then we're going to need to taper the belly in a little bit as well. Alright. Right. It's a slightly odd shape, but we're going to work with it. Ideally, we'd want a slightly different shape. We could potentially draw a curve instead of trying. Let's show both approaches. I'm actually going to show both approaches. For the reason, I use lines a lot just because they're easy to edit and I like playing with them. But at the end of the day, these types of shapes are often easier to create with curves just directly because you can manipulate them a little bit easier. I won't lie, they're a little bit easier to edit. So let's park this idea and basically duplicate from the revolve. And we're going to plop that into there, and I'm going to remove that. No, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to plop that into there. Now, in theory, we should have lost that. So let's do curve. And this is going to be a Bezier curve, and that's going to get plopped into there. Brilliant. We do have a match size. I actually think what I'm going to be doing. So view that, template that, brilliant. Let's see what we're going to do. We want roughly sort of that type of shape. Now see, this is why you just have a little bit more control. Do we need a ton of more control? No, but we just a little bit. I'm creating a mess of things. Wait, let me quickly undo that. I don't want this to go all the way to the center because otherwise it's just going to go too flat. So can we change that to 1? No. Okay, we'll work with it. Right. So we do want these sort of little points of detail, right? Now we can manipulate these. Maybe pull them towards the center because we do want a little thing on the top. I suspect these are 2 tools, so let's grab these guys. And the advantage to this is we can actually zoom in, where with the lines, as brilliant as they are, you can't zoom in. It's sort of the downside to them, so to speak. One of the downsides to them. Maybe we want like a sharp corner there. Why not? Alright. I don't like this divot. Don't like that divot at all. Could turn that into that. But that's sort of starting to complicate matters. Let's get rid of it. Right. Now ideally we'd want this to be a little bit skinnier over there, and then we can do want a slight divot there, so let's do that. But we need something that's going to start, let's say, to widen this a little bit. Can I get the other? Yeah. I want the other handle. No, 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 no. That one. There we go. And then we want to widen this, obviously. So let's grab that. No, that one. Don't want the actual controller. I want the thing. Right. So that goes more or less like that. This thing can go more or less like that. And we can grab these and start manipulating them. I'm not fond of the shape we currently have. I might regret removing that one, but I mean, we're gonna run with it. Just plop that over there. We could taper it out like that. But at this point, I'm sort of just messing with it because I'm having fun. Right, let's leave that for half a second, see what we're working with. I'm gonna pop into this one. I don't actually need to see the curve at this point. I just want to see the merge. I'm not, I won't go smooth. Let's try and do it to flat shaded. Right, I think that is on the right track. The next thing we want to be adding is the curve for, just the curve for top details, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Now we could potentially reuse the curve we did on the bottom. However, I don't think I'm going to be doing that. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. What we'll be doing is we'll be creating one side, mirroring it across, and then rotating and transforming. Are you using Carmen for materials, by the way? Most likely, yes. And I'll be doing my entire render setup in Solaris, and I'll most likely be doing my placement in Solaris as well. In terms of placing the actual buildings for the environment. Is it the best way to do it? I don't know, but that's the way I originally learned to do, let's say, placement of things. So that will be the eventual plan. Right, so we've got that. Now, curve. Another one. So I'm not going to actually copy it because I don't want to repurpose that curve. So let's do curve Bezier. And then we are going to template this again and go to front viewport. And then we're actually going to view this curve. Right. So in terms of the overall shape, we are going to go something like this with some variation. Now, slight thought. We might be doing a slight rotation on this eventually, but we'll worry about that in a second. I just plopping the curve in here so we can start editing it. Just getting a baseline in, so to speak. We might be doing similar to what we did down here, where we're actually placing it at a 45. But then it's not going to go, never mind, we're not going to. I've done USD a couple of times. How about you? It's serious setup of The Sims. At least it's worth it, in my opinion. I've done it once, but as I don't do a lot of simulations, I've not had a need to explore it in, let's say, a vast detail. Is it something I would want to learn and get more specialized at? Definitely. It's just not something I've currently, or at least that I currently utilize a lot. But quite frankly, from what I know about USD and sort of my personal experience of what I've done with it, it's sort of one of those things where it's very valuable to know the workflow for it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's sort of the future for how we do things, and that FBX, etc., will sort of fall away just due to the fact of how inefficient it is for transferring between softwares. But that's sort of a side note, side detail that may or may not become a factor down the line. It's powerful, so to speak. Alright, so let's mirror that. And then I'm actually going to create another curve. I don't want to have, can I delete this? Reset. Brilliant. Now this will need to go get plopped into this merge just so I can actually see it within the template. Otherwise I'll have a little bit of a problem here. Alright, now this is such a Bezier, which is fine. That is all well and good. Right. In terms of the overall shape we're looking for, are we going to go down first? Why aren't you working the way they should? It is a Bezier. It is a curve. Why aren't you doing what I want you to do? And let's see. Let's say it's not supposed to be doing that. Right. I'm going to delete that. We're creating a new curve. Curve Bezier. Alright, so that's that, then that's that, and then hopefully this time it's actually going to cooperate. And it is. Brilliant. Let's do that. Okay, that's going to be the one of them. And then the other one is going to go up there. And then we are going to transform them a little bit. So just because otherwise the normal direction is going to be funny on the what do you call it, on the sweep, because these will get swept eventually. Alright, grab that, gonna press it around that just to smooth that curve out a little bit, and then this will get merged and swept, mirrored and everything. Brilliant. Right, so they might be swept before this, so let's actually sweep that. We might need to orient, we might not. We'll see. The radius is going to go like that, and then depending on where we started this curve, hopefully we can scale it. Alright, so that's fine. And I think we're going to change that to 4. And then we are going to sweep. Alright. And then this cross section will actually be bigger, but not that big. Just do that, and then I actually want this to scale on both sides. Alright. Is that perfect? No. But it's not bad. So let's do that. And then we are going to set perspective. Okay, so that's actually at the center of the world, which is fine, not quite what I want. So let's turn on flat shaded. Right. So what we do want to do is actually move this to the edge. Quickly going to check the scaling of things. So let's view it from the side. Why not? the widest point is roughly that. So we could, in theory, use a match size for the placement. Will it work? Maybe, maybe not, but we're going to try. So that is going to be a match size. So match size get plopped into there, and then we are going to set perspective view. And then we want which direction? Z. I've got this wrong side. That is geometry, but then we need actually that. And then let's do none for the center, because we do want that to be stay in the center. None in the x direction. Let's remove that quickly. Right, so that is very close, but not quite correct. So let's do a slight offset just to bring that a little bit in, and then we can do a copy and transform. So that is going to be copy and transform. And that gets plopped into there, that goes to there, and then what we're going to be doing is we are 4 copies, but in case we ever want more than that, we're going to copy that transform, paste it into rotation, sort of like we did before, and that is going to be 360 divided, hello, I was typing there, 360 divided by number of copies. Right. So this quickly shows us that our curve is not quite lining up the way it should. So what I'm going to be doing is I am going to, we could scale it, but I actually think I'm going to adjust the original curve. So let's do front viewport, and we are going to template that, but view this. So what we probably want this to do is we probably want this to go around about there. Right, hopefully I got that muted. I had to sneeze. Right, so let's see what we can do here. We might have to adjust these side curves as well. I'm actually going to delete that one. Let's just see what this does. That is better, but I don't like what that curve is doing. So, let's grab that one, press 3, so it just moves a little bit out, and then we will be. Half the problem is actually the sweep and not the curve. But okay. That gets swept, and then I'm actually going to condense this down a little bit. Right. And I want that point to be sharper. Want that to be sharper, that can go more or less like that. Don't like how sharp that is. I want a soft, gentle curve. And that needs to plop more, not like that. Okay, good enough. Is that what I had in mind? No, but it's sort of functional. Let's do a merge. Basically combining that, add this, and that gets plopped into that. Brilliant. Now the next thing I'd want is, firstly, I think we're probably going to move this slightly outwards. So that's the one thing we're going to do. Maybe like that. And the next thing I want is actually I want a curve that goes down this side. So, what I'm going to be doing is I wonder if we can actually repurpose the bottom curve. So that is going to be which one? I've created a clutter. That is going to be this one. Alright. Now we would want this to be at roughly the height of before the roof was added. So let's do a match size. Match size, that one is going to get plopped into there, and then we are going to find out this was actually not utilized, so I can delete that. At what point this was added. So that can go into there, that can go into there, that can go, is it maximum? It was always the opposite. It's in fact min max. Brilliant. Right. So that then gets merged. So that gets plopped into there. Right. So what we'll be doing is going to the front view. Now this will be a little bit difficult to see because we are rotating, but be that as it may. We want to view this curve. Right, so the first thing I want to do is actually grab these and plop them around about there. And I want to grab these. Can I add a point? Insert a point. Huh, I can add a point. Brilliant. Alright. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing at this point, but I'm having fun, and that I guess is all that matters. I don't think I want that point there, so let's get rid of that. And then we can start manipulating this a little bit. Ideally, our biggest curve will be over here. And I'd want this. Now the match size is slightly messing with us over here. So what I'm going to do is actually offset this to bring that down to where I want it. And bearing in mind this breaks the placement of the curve, and now it no longer looks the way I want it to look, but that's fine. What we'll be doing is just moving these up and back into place. Right, so is this what I had in mind? We'll find out. No. No, 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 no. All right. Template that again. There is a bit of a gap that I don't like. And that gap. So let's play a little bit more with the actual curve. So we technically want that to go into that. Potentially have this a little bit more outwards. Now there is the chance that we might want to adjust the sweep, and that the sweep is part of the problem. Let's see. That looks insane. What have I done? I've created a tentacle monster thing. Right, let's make it smaller. Let's start with that. Have idea for lighting effects. With light, you can simulate some particles and smoke swirling around the lights, and then shot through will be like The light swirl out a mysterious figure, and all the light pools shatter. Moody, cinematic, like a person of Azkaban. That sounds epic. Also sounds above my knowledge of Houdini, but that does sound epic. Um, Maybe we could push it to get close to something like that. Time will tell. Time will tell. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to condense this down. Squish. It's gonna go squish. And then we are gonna grab this one. Don't like that's creating this little bump over here. So let's do that. I'm actually gonna delete these ones. We're just going to have that. And then just quickly smooth that curve out. We will be scaling because I think half the problem at the moment is the actual scale. So let's do, can I reset this? Let's do that. Right, so in theory we want that to be narrow, that point. Maybe not completely squished, but do want that to be narrow. And then we want maybe that part to be thicker. And in terms of the curve, I actually think I'm going to be placing that inside. Will I regret that? Maybe. Let's see. No, I don't like that. We tried it. It did not work. Right. Let's do that. And then we squish that end a little bit. That is better. And then I'm going to go and grab these ones. This one actually. And I want this to be further up. Just to create a bit better of a variance in scale. Just do that. Do that. Can I press 3 and have this not break everything? You know? Is that perfect? No. But it is better. Right. And then in terms of this curve, we now need a new spot to place it. So what about over here? Grab that one. I don't actually want this little piece, I want that little piece. Right, and then obviously our point is all wonky in this chord over here. So, I wonder, let's get perspective. No, don't want to do that. Let's go to perspective and quickly check where the main curve is, so to speak. Let's view that. It's not centered in the world. That's going to make things difficult. That is going to make things difficult. Right. It is fine. Let's go to front view. Not right view, front view. It's going to be front viewport. And then I wonder if we can grab this little guy. And I actually want to grab, I don't want to draw. And then we can try. Not necessarily get it to overlap. just sort of combine in a way that makes sense. Right. Perspective. I actually absolutely despise those little things in the corners. Right. Let's do a quick transform. We're going to do a transform, and I just want to see what happens if I scale this. No, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. Let's do 1. What if we plop that over there? Because see, the pivot is not centered. Move centroid to orange. Move pivot to centroid. There we go. That might work. Right. We want to scale. So that's going to be 0.865. Why not? Will I regret scaling this? Probably. Probably I will. We're going to do it anyway. Right. So now that is obviously too high. So what we do want to do now is on the match size, we want to reduce the offset. So that is going to be, that's a min max. Is it that one? Yeah, sure, why not? And then we are going to take this one and also offset it a little bit. I see that looks better. Do I want it to be that squished though? Probably not. Let's do 7.5. That's a better scale though. Thank you. Thank you. I wonder if we increase the scale of the roof of the lantern, whether that'll improve it. Because I don't want this to be too small, especially in comparison to the details at the bottom. So let's quickly mess with that. That's going to be the box. That's a sweep. So we're looking for a curve that goes to a revolve. That's going to be this one. It's a curve. It's a curve. Okay, right, okay. We're running with it. We are running with it. Let us manipulate this a tiny bit. I'm going to grab all of these. I know this thing is going a little bit bonkers just due to the way I set it up. I'll fix it. In theory, I have to align the match size up with the top of the lantern itself, not the entire lantern. Haven't done that yet, but we'll do it at some point. Alright, and then we can maybe adjust the curve a little bit. Move that down. And potentially out. Let's see. I want that to go that way. Alright, let's see what that's doing. No. Right. I do want to lift all of this. Potentially make them slightly narrower, but also lift that up and lower this down. Alright, and then we can play a little bit with this one. To get a slightly different shape. Do I like that shape? I'm not sure. Let's quickly undo that. I don't. think I love that shape. Right. Let's give perspective. Yeah, see, that's not bad. That's not bad. I think that works. Right. I think that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see everyone next time. Bye.